there are a few things I thought to talk about. And I actually had something else prepared. But then this week I had a conversation with Karin about witnessing. So I thought, you know what? Let's talk about witnessing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. As I usually say, if there's a first good slide in a PowerPoint, it's going to be a good presentation. So I want to talk about witnessing. And witnessing starts with yourself. And when you leave today, I want you to think about these three words: ownership, conditions, and integrity. And so these are some words I've spoken about before. However, today I want to talk about them in the context of witnessing. I was recently asked to give a witnessing talk online to a Zoom to the Russian community. They asked me to give a witnessing talk to their CARP members, and to my answer was, "You sure there's no one else you want to ask?" Right? But no, he said, I think I've heard something from you before. I would very much like to hear you talk about witnessing. I said, okay. Well, you do know that I don't have that much experience about witnessing, right? He said, well, do you have some experience? I have some experience. I said, well, can you talk about that and talk about your testimony regarding witnessing? So I started talking about, my SDF time and my time being now a community leader and my time being a CARP leader in Albania and all of that. And however, as I was sharing these things, I realized that sharing pictures of me and my time in Albania is not so interesting. I mean, it can be, but it's not. That's not what witnessing is about. It's about telling what I did. But the things I did share about, which I felt were very useful, were actually these 3 points. So I thought I'd share these points, and I hope you can get something from this. Most of the people in this room have done more witnessing than I have, so I'm actually very humbled to stand in front of you and share this. And I hope that if there's nothing new that you learned today, that maybe some of your feelings will be reinforced, and you can feel good about that. And if you do learn something new, I mean, that's great. That's perfect. So let's start. So the first one is, you can't see the word there. Great. Ownership. So I have found that ownership is, although we talk about ownership a lot, I talk about ownership a lot, it is not something that is obvious. It's not something that actually comes easy. Many times when we do church activities, because I talk about ownership in the context of a community, of a context of being in a program, and usually in these formats, ownership actually comes quite hard. Ownership is not, it doesn't come easy. Because actually you kind of, for more or less, are told what to do. Most of the young people here have done some kind of program or some workshop. And for these workshops where we practice our life of faith, there's a schedule, we are told what to do, and if you follow these things, you will be successful in this program. And so we do those things, and then we feel good, and then we go back home, and then there's no structure anymore. You have to take care of yourself, and you have to develop your life of faith in your own way. And the same thing in a community. For many, many, many years, we've had True Father, who told us very directly how we should live our life of faith. And I found many times that just hearing those things doesn't mean necessarily that you will take this ownership. So I will share a quotation from True Father. Although the desire of each individual is to enjoy the highest ownership, the power of selfish love is always bringing division rather than unity and harmony. Under those circumstances, can we ever obtain the highest ownership? The whole problem of the world can be boiled down to each individual, the self. The one self is a battleground where each of us must obtain the victory. Ooh, noise. So, we've learned this many, many, many times. And I've actually shared this specific slide before. But I want to talk about it in the context of ownership and witnessing. So, you're familiar with the four-person foundation: God, mind, body, unity, and ideal person, ideal family, ideal world. I thought of a moment I had with a brother. He was in my team. And this brother, he, as we call on SDF, we call it, he caned out. He caned out. He didn't want to join blitzing. Right? So he didn't do blitzing that evening. And blitzing is when we go out into the city and we do at nighttime, we approach the people that are out late, maybe drinking, maybe partying, maybe doing other events. We fundraise to those people. And blitzing is because we do it very fast, right? Quick. And caning out is that you don't join, yet you don't attend in the activity that we have prepared. And so the next day, this brother, he wants to talk to me and he wants to explain to me why he didn't join the blitzing. So he says, well, this happened with this member, and so I felt bad. And then, my day was difficult. Oh, I didn't have the result I wanted. And, at home is difficult. And, everything is difficult. And it's just, I couldn't do it. And after he said this, I could see he was seeking the validation. He was begging me, please say, it's okay you didn't go blitzing because you're struggling so much, right? And however, in that moment, and that would have made my life so much easier. It's so much easier to say, yes, you know what, try harder next time, right? It's so easy. And then the conversation is done. I don't have to have the difficult conversation with him. But I thought, you know what, let's have this difficult conversation. And I asked him, okay, all of these things are happening in your life, but what is the real reason you didn't go out blitzing? What did you feel inside of yourself that made you step back and hesitant to going out and approaching these people? Because everyone else is doing it. And so I told him, I think you're afraid. I think there's something going on in your life. There's something holding you back. There's some fear there that is not where it should be. And I said to him, actually, you're in a privileged position because you get to work on your fear. You get to overcome this difficulty. And this brother, he agreed with me. He was actually very afraid. There was something going on in his life. And I think we all have that. And why I said this brother, you're in a privileged position, because you're actually encountering your fear. You actually have an opportunity to grow. And this is something I want to go back to this. Mind and body unity, man, woman, ideal family. Is that sometimes we think about, the unity of our mind and body is maybe just discipline. But there are many things in our life that's holding us back to being those individuals that we should be. And each one of you, I know for a fact, at least myself, that we all have moments, things that we want to do in our life, but something is holding us back. And we need to overcome that to really establish this mind-body unity and have that unity with God. So, we live a very difficult life in our movement because essentially we seek for perfection. So, sometimes we fall short, and that's okay. But we have to ask ourselves, what is holding me back? And so in the context of mind-body unity, on ownership, and witnessing, why witnessing starts with yourself is because you have to overcome these things yourself. Why is it that I like to ask young people, whenever I go to an event where I teach something, I like to ask the second gen, who here has invited a friend to Sunday service? And usually it's one or two out of 30 people have invited their friends to Sunday service. So why is that? What is it you're afraid of? that is going to happen when they come to Sunday service. And these things, these insecurities, these fears, we have to fight those because they lie with yourself. Me and my brother, we've had the privilege of having a beautiful friend called Liam, which all of you have met, and he's come to Sunday service, and he's coming to our events, and he loves this community. He loves spending time with us, right? And so there's something there. And if there's something actually that you don't want to show your friend, well, maybe that's something we have to have a conversation about. What is it that's preventing you from bringing a friend to church? So, I want to share another story. I know this is it's just one slide. I know we need more stimulation, I know, but we'll stay on this slide a little bit longer. And that is, I had this moment myself, because I can't talk about this other brother's fear without talking about myself, of course. So I had this moment where I was fundraising every day, and I didn't want to go out fundraising. And I started asking myself, because once I was out fundraising, I always had a good time because I'm very social and I like to make jokes. So when I was fundraising, I tried to make people happy as well as sell my product. So I usually had a good time and people were very interesting and they were interested. So a good give and take. However, just stepping out of the van and going out fundraising, going out doing that thing that I didn't want to do, I was asking myself, why can't I do it? And I was reflecting on this for like days, and it was so difficult. I didn't understand. And then one moment, I was looking in the mirror, and if you're sitting behind the driver in a van, when you look in the back rear mirror, you will see yourself if you're sitting behind the driver. And I was looking at the mirror, I was looking at myself, and I was asking myself, why am I afraid? And I was looking at this mirror, and I started seeing myself in the mirror, obviously, right? There was no one else there, but I saw myself, and I looked in my eyes, and I felt this moment of, do I love the person I'm looking at? And I felt I didn't love the person I was looking at. And I had this moment of, well, and I looked at my eyes, and I saw how beautiful my eyes were. And each one of us have beautiful eyes. If we just care to look ourselves in the eyes. And I felt all of my ancestors have come down to create me, right? They are a combination of thousands of people to create these beautiful eyes, and I have the audacity to not love myself. And so this fear lies with everyone. And this fear of me exiting the van was so tremendous that I had to ask myself, why? Why am I afraid? What is holding me back? Yes. So take ownership. That was my first lesson. So I hope you're all remembering ownership was the first one. The second one I want to talk about is conditions. So conditions. Laying the right foundation leads to the right conditions for the future. So in our community, we're great at doing conditions. I think, I don't know anyone that uses, any group of people that uses conditions as much as we do, right? It's incredible how we're utilizing this word to its absolute maximum and then more, right? And so I wanted to share a little quotation from Jordan Peterson. You must determine where you are going in your life, because you cannot get there unless you move in that direction. Random wandering will not move you forward. It will instead disappoint and frustrate you and make you anxious and unhappy and hard to get along with. Interesting. So, conditions. We usually talk about conditions as some spiritual activity we do, but conditions is many things. Conditions is, have you laid the conditions to live a certain life? And so, and this is something that Jordan Peterson is also talking about here. So when we set a condition, we usually say, for 40 days I'm going to pray, and then I want to have this result. Or I know there's some students in here, we say, I have an exam, I will study this many days, and then I will get an A, right? And then we get a C, and then we have to reevaluate, right? So we have to have a vision for the future. And so I was just now talking about fundraising. So this is me, a rare picture of me. I not very good in being in picture, but here's a picture of me. And this is, I think I've shared this story before, but when I was fundraising, I was always envisioning what I wanted from fundraising. And I remember when I went to SDF, I told myself I wanted to have an adventure. So I really had an adventure on SDF. I didn't go there to deeply grow my life of faith and struggle to find God and your parents. So most of my time was leisure and wow, the Alps are right there and I'm talking to this person. And this person is like, sees this every morning. I'm like, this person must have an amazing life, right? And so so many times I would look at the mountains. I would knock at someone's door and then I'd see the mountain. I'd look over and I'd be like, wow. And then I hear someone like, hello? I was like, oh, I forgot you were here. Right. So what you want, you will receive. And so this is also, to go back to Jordan Peterson, random wandering will not move you forward. But you really have to have that goal in mind. And so when we do a condition, and we are very good at making conditions, we say, I want to achieve this by this time. However, I found that many times in our life of faith, and maybe I'll just reflect on myself here, and I'm not gonna lump you all in together into my life, but many times I found that we don't. Who here has a 5-year plan for their life of faith? I mean, not many has a 5-year plan for their life in general. I think visions are lacking greatly in society, but for a life of faith. So when it comes to, let's say, our community, what is it that you want from this community? Why do you, it's going to be might sound like a harsh question, why do you come to this Sunday service? I mean, it's nice to spend time with each other. However, it's like we're here for a purpose. There's a bigger picture at stake, and that's why we come here. However, when sometimes we have to internalize that in ourselves, and we have to ask ourselves, what is it I want to achieve from this? What is the goal of me being here? And it cannot come, we've been spoiled from true father and true mother who keeps on telling us we need to establish this, we need to do that, and you need to do this. And so therefore we do those things. However, with all the missionary teams that we've had now, every time they come here and they come to do witnessing, they come to share the truth, I ask them, why are you here? And the UPA students, they were very good at this. They said, I'm here to do witnessing and share God's love and true parents' love. And I said, okay, that's a rehearsed answer. Why are you really here? And they're like, what? You're not supposed to ask that. So what do you want to achieve from your time here? Deep down, what is it you're working with? So most of the UPA teams, the first week or 2 weeks, they struggled the most, actually, when they were in Sweden. Because then they had like, oh, why am I doing this? And someone was even like, why am I in UPA? And I was like, whoa, dial back. Right? So we have to make that our own. With the GPA students, when I asked them, they were like, they had no idea, right? One said, I want to make friends. And I was like, well, you can make friends anywhere. Like, you're not here to make friends. I mean, please do make friends, but that's not why you are here. And so when we do ask ourselves that question, we know there's something else. There's a reason why each one of you are here today. There's a reason why you have been given the set of tools and the life that you've received. And you'd be lying to yourself if you're just supposed to be here to run out your time and work and make money and have a career. Each one of you have an innate desire to achieve something great in this life. And you will achieve something great in life. However, that is what you have to project. You have to ask yourself, what is it I want to achieve? And why am I not achieving that? To go back to this mind-body unity, do you have this fear? If you have fear in your life that's holding you back, fear is not from God. So if you have fear in your life, where is that coming from? And if you let fear control your life, if you let fear hinder you from being who you're supposed to be, then you are not living a life with God. But only by overcoming those fears and keep on fighting and keep on doing better can we achieve that. So I know I've shared the story, but young Peter here, why I love this picture, is like why he's so happy is because there was a time later when I struggled a lot. But this time, young Peter was very happy. And what he was projecting to the future and to life was gifts. So actually, I left SDF with a bunch of things. I had like Swiss watches, Swiss knives. I got chocolate and Coca-Cola every day and Swiss cheese. I was like, name it. I was this close to getting a laptop. Because I was like, this is really working. And I was like, I really want the laptop. And I met this gentleman who was like, I have this laptop which I don't need. And I was like, what about it? So anyways, so and I did get all of those things that I projected to the universe. And I had an adventure, right? But then somehow maybe God was like, maybe you need to try harder. And that's when I started encountering my fear. And going from having good time every day, I was struggling. Why is that? I was meeting similar people, but I was struggling. Okay, so we also have as a community, and some of you have seen this earlier this year, and I have to admit, I don't share this enough, but this is our vision. So we have True Mother's vision as witness to 1/3 of the population. Then we have a national vision, expand an embracing community through spirit and truth. And then the goal statement, practice a culture of growth and ownership by the end of 2024. So this is our vision as a community, right? And I think we need to have a vision as a community. But even more importantly, even more important than our community vision is your own vision. Of course, if you find that your vision doesn't align with our vision is very broad, so that's why it should work for everyone. But each one of you should have a vision for yourself in every part of your life, in finance, personality, growth, living standards, everything, but also spiritually. So within this community, what is the vision? What do you want to achieve from this community? It's very important, because quickly coming to Sunday service can be very boring, because frankly, I don't even think I'm inspiring enough for you to stay around. It has to be something more for you to do for your life, because as I said before, you're supposed to achieve great things. And if all you're supposed to do with this community is to be here and show your face and smile and eat fika, although all those things are great, there has to be something greater than that. And I really pray and hope that each one of you can have this vision for yourself. So you have to project this. So, why do we do conditions? We do conditions to achieve things. We do conditions to attain a result that we didn't have, right? And so, your vision shouldn't be, I want to be me in 3 years from now, right? If I told you you're good enough, that would be a lie. I showed a picture of Jordan Peterson. I listened to one of his talks, and one of the best things I've ever heard anyone say is telling people that you're good enough is the worst thing you can do to anyone. Because yes, we can love each other for who we are, and surely you're good enough for me, but for yourself, you need to be better. You can be better. And you know that you can be better. So for me telling you that you should stop here because you're good enough, that would preventing you from overcoming those fears. So we had to do conditions, not just 4 days, but 1 year, 3 years, etc. So in the vision here, expanding and embracing community to spirit and truth. So I want to talk a little bit about spirit and truth. True Mother has spoken about this recently, and the Bible also speaks about spirit and truth. And the Bible says spirit is God and love, and truth is the word. So the Bible, right? So that's spirit and truth. For me, I wouldn't say those things are wrong. I'd like to develop those things. For me, why the spirit and truth is so great and it's so nice that True Mother is emphasizing is because I agree with True Mother. You know, it's very reassuring when I agree with True Mother. Spirit is God, right? It's love. And I had this experience recently where I was in South Africa, and I asked this community down there, I was talking to all the young adults, and I asked them, and it was a group of 20 people. Usually when I meet young adults, I like to ask them, tell me about yourself. Because I don't find it so rewarding to stand in front of people and talk to them like now. I find it much more interesting to actually talk to people and see where they're at. And then we can talk about that. That's much more relevant. So when I meet young people, especially abroad, I like to, what is going on with you, and how is your life of faith, and what are the challenges, and what are you trying to overcome? As a community, where are you going, etc. But we were a group of 20 people, so I asked them shortly, okay, please tell me one thing. Where do you want to be in 3 years from now? Or 5 years from now, I can't remember, 3 or 5 years from now. Where do you want to be? And age, name, where do you want to be in 3 or 5 years from now? And so they all answered. And after this talk, it was so interesting. I was watching them talk with each other, and these are the community. They grew up together. It's Cape Town, and they were like, "Wow, I didn't know you wanted to become an actor, for example. Oh, I didn't know you wanted to work in IT. I also want to work in IT." And it was so interesting because we have this community where we have these tremendous, incredible values that are so hard to live up to, right? And so to have that real love for people, to actually ask them how they're doing, is very, very difficult. Sometimes I find myself, I love talking to each one of you, but sometimes I find like, do I actually know what's going on with George? Do I know what's going on with Eva? Right? What's actually going on with each other's lives? Do we ask ourselves? Do we ask each other? And that's what I found in this community, these young people. They didn't actually know what the other ones wanted to do. Like this is the what they're doing today is to be there in 3 years from now. And so they didn't know this about each other. And so I had to ask myself, do I know my community? And I know that we do love each other. I do know that. There have been many moments in my life where I've been surprised by people asking, how am I doing? I know when after my blessing, I came back from Korea, and I was struggling so much, but of course I didn't want to. This was many years ago, not with Daniela. I'm doing great with Daniela. But my previous blessing. And I was struggling so much. And I remember there were a few people that actually asked me, how am I doing? Because they could tell that something was off, even though I was pretending I was fine. And those people, I was so impressed by them. Because they've actually, some of these people have never ever since then and before asked me how I was doing. Right? But they could tell there was something off. And it really moves your heart. Because these people really care about you. And that's truth to me. To really love each other, to really ask each other, how are you doing today? How is your life going? Do you need any help with anything? This is incredible questions. And so the second one, truth, is then the word. I myself am very bad at quoting books and quoting the DP and the Bible or whatever. I usually talk from experience. And I find many times when someone asks me for advice, or I ask them, how is your life going? Many times I really cared and loved for this person, but I just didn't know what to tell them. I was like, whatever you're struggling with is beyond me and whatever I could ever imagine. There's no way for me to relate to your experience. And so the truth comes in is that we really have to have more experience. We really have to learn more. I remember when I became national leader, there were first of the wiser generation, the first generation here, that actually came to me and told me there's something they're struggling with. And I was like, you should talk to Ingmarie. Right? And I appreciate this central figure approach, that you should share your struggles with your central figure, but I just did not know how to help this person. I remember this one person said, I'm struggling in my marriage. And I was like, it wasn't exactly like that, and I don't have to go into it. I want to be vague so that this stays anonymous. And I was like, I'm not married, In fact, I have a very bad track record of marriage, right? And so, it's important to actually grow, not just our hearts, but also our knowledge, so we can help the people around us. And that's why it's good to consume knowledge. It's good to read the divine principle. It's good to read the Bible. It's good to study things and get that knowledge so you can help people. Also experiencing. Once you've struggled with something, once you've overcome your fear, maybe you can help someone else overcome that fear. So this is spirit and truth. And I found because now at this point I've helped a lot of young people. I've been a mentor for a few, and I've had the privilege of meeting so many young people. And that's very beautiful. So I have a lot of experience now. And I find that whenever I don't love this individual, I will not tell them what they need to hear. I will tell them what I think they need to hear. But many times when I am acting on behalf of God, I can say the right thing. And I know in my heart when I'm sharing something with someone and they are not being receptive. And I feel, And then I had to ask myself, did I ask this person how they're doing, what they actually need? Because what I'm saying might make logical sense, but if they're not hearing it, why say it? Okay. So, spirit and truth, very precious. Conditions. Beautiful picture. Again, as I said, I didn't not like to be in pictures, so I have the few pictures I have are strange. But this is my spiritual son. He's the pink shirt, and I have the blue T-shirt. And I'm guessing we just ate ice cream or something. And in the middle is his spiritual son. So this was my guest, and he was one of the first people I met when I went to SCF. And when I started witnessing, I was so determined. I really wanted to find some really beautiful person, or actually spiritual son, that I can love. And so I met a lot of brothers. And so after 2 weeks or so, I actually managed to have some very good guests coming to the center. And he was one of them. And he's quite spiritually open. He's a very unique person. I was very privileged to be his spiritual father. And so when we were there for 1 month or something in Albania, and then we went to Korea to attend the foundation day. And that's where we met Lisa, Jessica. They were receiving the blessing. And amazing. That was so much fun. But his name is Elvis. And I was doing conditions for my guest at the time when I went to Korea. And for me, this is one of the most rewarding conditions I've ever done. Because first of all, I really, really was praying so intensely for them, for my guests. Every morning, and I think even every night, I was praying for them. Because I've heard stories that, once you leave and the guest doesn't have you around, then they don't want to come to the center anymore. So I felt, okay, I really need to make sure that these brothers stay. So I was praying intently. And when I came back from Korea, this brother, he said, you know what? Every morning when you were gone, I woke up with a smile on my face. I never in my life felt as good as I did while you were in Korea. And immediately I knew that, he felt my condition. He felt my prayers. But I didn't say that to him because he wasn't a member at the time. But 1 year later, I come back to Albania. I come back to the same city, Vlorë. And I tell him, we're having ice cream. Actually, not this ice cream, but we were having ice cream. We're sitting in an ice cream shop. And I was telling him about this experience. I said, do you remember 1 year ago when I went to Korea and you said you felt good every day when you woke up? And I said, I was actually doing condition for you at the time. And he said, I knew you were doing condition. I knew you were the reason why I was feeling so good. And that is why I told you. Right? So that is very precious. And I was like, spirit world is real. Right? It was incredible. So we really do have to remember the conditions are real and we have to do them. We have to pray. We have to do these things. It's precious. Okay, so what's the last one? We talked about ownership. We talked about conditions. Who remembers what the last point was?
Spirit and truth.
That was in conditions.
Oh,
Integrity. Integrity. Yes. So, why is integrity important? So, I shared before that we have amazing values. And essentially, what we teach is that you have to be perfect. So, yes, we fall short on that and we don't live up to what we preach. That's the truth. Because I am not perfect. You can speak for yourself, but I am not perfect. And, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that neither are you. That's harsh, I know. But that's maybe the truth. And so we have a lot of growing to do. And many times we teach these things. We're going to save the world. And, the world is not saved. And, I'm still doing my 8 to 5 job. And I'm not saving the world, right? So that's the reality. That's the reality that we have. So it is to take integrity and add it in the context of our church values. That's a tough one. I totally understand that. However, I want to talk about this anyways, because although maybe we don't have perfect integrity, we are working on it. So here, not Trifaldi, but the Bible says, the righteous who walks in his integrity, blessed are his children after him. So I was asked this winter, I gave a lecture in the Nordic Winter Workshop in Finland. And they said, There were such difficult questions. They were like, what's going to happen when your mother passes away? And I was like, oh my Lord. Like, I have no idea. And then they were like, okay, what's one advice you can give to us one advice that you can give that's relatable to all of us? And I was like, what are these questions? But I thought, okay, well, integrity. And I said, integrity is good because it's difficult in the moment, but it's good in the long term. So, blessed are his children after him, right? Because in the long run, integrity pays off. And the thing about integrity and witnessing is that if you tell someone, it doesn't have to be a guest, it doesn't have to be someone we're inviting to church, it can be anyone. If you tell someone and you're not speaking the truth, it's possible that they understand the words, but in their heart, they know that there's something not correct here. And I found many, many times when I have met a guest and I'm teaching this guest our values, and I tell him or her this recited answer of why the divine principle is important, I feel, that wasn't true. There was something there. There's something here that I still need to learn, and something I need to have true with myself before I can share it with others. And so we have to grow our life of faith in a place where it's not a rehearsed answer, but it's something we feel as part of us. Once you have learned to live with God, and once you've learned the truth, then, from my experience, then you can share that. And then it will be very precious. And this person will feel not only stimulated by the truth, but also by the integrity that you have. Because if you lie to someone, you will push them away. And they will feel that you are not speaking the truth. It's very important. I have so many stories of my time in witnessing where I was just telling this rehearsed answer, and this person just doesn't care for it. So what does this person talk about? We'll talk about other things. Because if we talk about ice cream and my favorite flavor of ice cream, at least I'm speaking the truth. But if I'm telling this person that something that I am not convinced about, then they're not going to receive it. So, and with that, I know I've shared this also before, but I think it's precious. I think it's so precious. And that is that when you have that integrity, when you've overcome your fears, when you have some level of God and transparency in your life, the truth is that God, nice animation, yes? Mm-hmm. God always wants to work with you. And that if there's anything you can take from this, is that it's also a protection from you. So you can establish ownership, you can set the right conditions, and you can live a life of integrity, and you're setting the right foundation for God to work with you. Reverend Young, he shared in one of his, I don't know if you know, he was the Continental Leader for America, and he was sharing in one of his morning sermons, he was saying, if you don't witness, you don't understand God's heart. I think that was very, very powerful, and it actually changed my view on witnessing, because God's heart is that of always loving and always reaching out. And if you are not doing that, let's not put it just in the context of witnessing, but if you're not loving others and sharing your life and sharing your values with them, then you are not living a life with God, because that is God's nature. So if you find yourself in a place where you just want to not give anything, and you're justifying your laziness, or you're justifying this or that, you are not living a life with God, and that's a very, very bad place to be in. However, once you find that, you will find that God always wants to work with you. He really wants to bring that out of you and share that with people. Liliana's nodding her head, so I know I'm speaking the truth. Thank you. So, thank you so much. That was it for me. Thank you.